Pintura sobre escultura é quase maquiagem, mas maquiagem não tem representação. Está na cara, bloqueio, reconhecimento facial. Está na cara, esgarçamentos, o tecido social. Motivo pra tudo, motivo pra tudo, motivo pra tudo. O que ela quis dizer com aquela maquiagem? O espanto é que isso seja uma questão. Está na cara. Que desenho é levita, alguém de ver. Está na cara. Ou se projeta quantos anos de você. Motivo pra tudo, motivo pra tudo, motivo pra tudo. Nesse
Hello and welcome to Now and Xen, the podcast about microtonal and Xen harmonic music, both national and international, foreign and domestic, past, present, and future. For J.I. purists, computer geeks, alternative guitarists, and academic aficionados of all ages, from age 8 to 81/64, I'm Stephen Weigel, and on today's episode of Now and Xen, we have Löis Lancaster, who is a microtonal composer who writes in Bohlen-Pierce. So,
Yeah.
great to have you on, Löis. Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm fine, and I'm really glad to be part of this great program. I first, beforehand, must warn you that my English is not that good. And in Portuguese, I must say that I'm a little more precise in my words. But never mind. I'm so happy to be here, and I value this opportunity a lot. I'm very. This is a great achievement to me to be part of it, to be listening by you people.
Yes, and we're so happy to have you here as well. You are like, you've got this ear for Bohlen-Pierce that nobody else really has, that it's just so perfect, and you're so good at coming up with those chord progressions and all of that kind of stuff.
Oh.
So,
Thank you.
I'd love to just get in your head and figure out how you write in Bohlen-Pierce, like what the process is, how you start with an idea, and how you add more parts when you don't have any octaves and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I must say it's a complex process, but it's a process that I'm a Virgo in zodiacal sign, you know, and I'm very methodical. I like to try to figure out how I do these things myself. I think that mainly in the basics, I can create melodies easily. I think, like riffs and so. I think I'm more like a melodist than a harmonic guy. I don't know. My instrument, my first instrument was the bass guitar.
Yeah.
And this is a little weird because I can't just go there and make a concert, just me singing and playing the bass. Well, I could do that. Some people do that, but I think it would be missing the harmonic part. I always envied those guys who play guitar or piano, and basically I think that developed in me some sense of melody that is a little different. I think personally, this is disputable, but I think that bass players are good people to arrange. They are good arrangers. because they can feel the music through many instruments going into a single direction. And well, that being said, I think I'm a little I don't have a special. I don't like especially the 12-tone harmony. It doesn't mean much to me for me to get rid of it. I think it's not a problem very much to me. The Bohlen-Pierce was a choice that I made it clear, I think, in the lyrics of a song. There is a composer here in Brazil called Caetano Veloso. He has a song in which he says, if you have a great idea, you better write a song, because it's proved that you can only make philosophy in German.
Incrível! É melhor fazer uma canção. Está provado que só é possível filosofar em alemão. Se você tem uma ideia incrível, é melhor fazer uma canção. Está provado que só é possível filosofar em alemão.
And
Right.
that's what I did, and then that's a song that I think I was very happy with that, because it won the prize of the un12.org Western Symphony.
cintilantes linhas de postes da rodovia. A coincidência dos números no painel de LED capta sua atenção. É a hora que traz de imediato a mente a sintonia do Ocidente. O encaixe das frequências do senso comum com aleatório aritmético em pleno momento presente. Nessa hora você tem carta branca pra rolar na varanda com as plantas, vibrar os olhos na espuma de uma estampa, realizar aquele velho projeto, indo contra tudo em que acredita, pois é aquela estampa me lembrou do argumento para o livro infantil sobre os miados pelos telhados que nunca foram identificados pelo narrador onisciente. Se chamaria provavelmente os gatos verde claro. Os gatos verde claro. Ideia do caralho. Os gatos verde claro. E o nome é genial. Os gatos verde claro. Ligue se precisar de patrocínio. Os gatos verde claro. Fazerem como eles dizem na TV. Nós empresários agimos assim.
Jude Thomas and I brought this up in our episode when we were talking about who can write in Bohlen-Pierce and what that means. And your bass comment is very interesting as well, because Sean and Elaine and I talked earlier about how in Bohlen-Pierce it's notoriously difficult to create bass lines. Like if you have a chord progression and then you create a bass, then you don't have any octaves. So Sean was talking about how he would cheat
Yeah,
and he would
yeah.
make a Bohlen-Pierce scale like, you know, an octave lower or whatever, and then still have that be in Bohlen-Pierce, but use that. Is that kind of a tactic that you would use as well, or not really?
Well, the only thing that I make sure in my compositions is that I don't use the octave, the pseudo octave that you have in Bohlen-Pierce. I mean, the ninth grade of the scale.
Right. Yeah.
That is almost the octave, but it's not. I make a case not to use that interval.
Right.
Because
I can tell.
You think it's ugly, but far from that, I think the bass players already like to work with like inversions of the chords, like to use the third and also and that in 12 tone. I think it makes sense because you are not trying to replicate the octave. You are trying to put another note there that will maybe transform the chord,
Right.
maybe give another direction to the chord. There is a kind of an impression that I have about the Bohlen-Pierce scale that is like I try to explain that to non-musicians. That's it's like to take a picture in black and white, or to take a picture with some in black and white, but with some polarizing lenses that, in this case, take off the even harmonics, and that to me make the melodies that I create a little less dependable of the harmony of the traditional and cultural way that we see harmony. And so I like to think more as gestures. The melodies that I make, I think more like gestures that don't have don't have a specific meaning harmonically. They are consonant, but they don't have that label of 12-tone harmony in the brain of the listener and of my brain also. And that to me makes more easy to make counterpoints. And that's one of my great passions, counterpoints. I like to hear the quartets, the last quartets of Beethoven, because of that, because it's so much counterpoint. And
Yeah.
I think Beethoven likes to make that things that I think it also deals with harmony, but there are like gestures, you know. They have some intentions that are not so clearly based on harmony. That's why I think Bohlen-Pierce makes that a little. They potentialize that.
Would you say that increased potential for counterpoint comes from the fact that almost none of the notes really have the same quote-unquote pitch class, except for the tritave?
Yeah, I can say that, because it's like a filter that takes off this kind of predetermined harmonical way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
It
think.
forces you to think of those new kinds of relationships. And I definitely hear those sorts of gestures in your music. Like, I think the first thing I heard that you had written in Bohlen-Pierce was Perfume con Açúcar. Yeah, Perfume with Sugar. Yeah. This song has
This song is interesting because I created the main melody based on a melody by another guy, a friend of mine.
Oh, really?
That melody.
Who's that?
Yeah. It's Augusto, a friend of mine. He's like a chansonnier, like, how can I say, that French people like Serge Gainsbourg.
Right.
He likes to write songs like that, and he has this little melody. Da, 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 da. In the intervals, the pauses of this melody, I made the chorus. Perfume, pam, 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 pam. You see?
Yeah.
That's the pauses. I made another melody in the negative of that.
Yeah. So you're using that in a contrapuntal way, like if you have melodies that are independent of each other, then while one melody sort of holds, the other melody plays some different notes. You're filling in the gaps.
Yeah, and because it's in Bohlen-Pierce, I can make I can play with the way that the cultural ear of the listener listens to each one of these melodies. You see, they are not framed by a 12-tone normal way of harmony, you know?
Yeah.
Because people tend to know the kinds of melody that go along with each other in 12 tones. And that doesn't necessarily work in Bohlen-Pierce.
Right, exactly. How do you feel about the fact that Bohlen-Pierce has so few notes? One of the things that surprises me most about it whenever I work with it, and I'm just like, oh my god, there's just almost no notes here. I like try to make a big chord with some tritaves, and I'm like, I'm already out of the range I would like for that instrument, you know?
Yeah, I know. I say that I don't think very much about the tritaves. Because you said that they are so far away. I just think of that when I try to make a melody that somehow resonates in the lower register. There is a song that I made that is in my album. I don't know if you've heard about the album that I released some years ago, M.I.A. It's a song called Nome, Feito.
Okay.
Like...
yeah,
down a name, made up name. When it comes to the bass line is replicated in a tritave above.
Time tem preocupado que se dane e pra sua pele o fogo vira sempre celofane. É frio, mas não passa.
To me, it's almost registering it as like very interesting noise that's happening up high as the bass line is working.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, how it resonates.
I love how in your music you have... You treat it like you're writing in 12th and equal temperament, where you have like pitch bends to the notes and like blue notes and things like that, where the intonation is reasonable, you know? And I think that makes it sound more alive.
Yeah. You know, it's strange because I know that the Bohlen-Pierce doesn't. You can't say really an acoustic instrument is playing Bohlen-Pierce strictly, because when you play any instrument, you have even harmonics also.
Yes.
In the real world, and this is so interesting, so strange, because you have to try to get to a pure world that when you take that to the speaker, it's already different. So
Right.
we'll try to deal with this, deal with this absence. And I don't know if you've heard, if you saw this, but there was a post in the Zen Harmonic Alliance about a guy who talked about Deleuze, Gilles Deleuze, the French philosopher.
I did not see that.
This philosopher is very dear to me. I like him very much. And he has a concept of minority, which has nothing to do with minor chords. It's like when you try to create some things by taking off some pieces of it. Like when you try to stage a Shakespeare play like Romeo and Juliet, but without the Mercutio character that is the friend of Romeo. And so just by taking this off, you have to make adjustments that take the play somewhere else. And I think that's what happens with Bohlen-Pierce. And by the way, I'd like to just say a little more about the song Western, the Sintonia West. That's just when I got to the Zen Harmonic Alliance page, I figured out that some people like Margot Schotter, she's great talking about ancient music and music before the 12-tone configuration. And there are other guys who talk greatly about Maquiagem and other kinds of tunings from the East. I thought I like that very much, but I don't like to go that way. That's why the name of my song was the Western Symphony, because I think the Western, and that's Gilles Deleuze also thinking, it's like a new gold rush. To find out new places that haven't been in the tradition before. And I think Bohlen-Pierce is like the perfect scale for that, because it's like a tradition of the future. It's a tradition that's yet to be written.
It's certainly drawn so many people in, and the future-ish nature of Bohlen-Pierce stands in stark contrast to its macrotonalness, if that makes any sense. It's like, maybe a lot of people think that the pitch system of the future that we would use would be able to access any pitch or almost any pitch or be very, very microtonal in some way. But then Bohlen-Pierce is just this big tuning, and it's so strange. The way you use Bohlen-Pierce is also, I think, comparatively unusual. Or at least when I listen to it, I feel like when a lot of people use Bohlen-Pierce, they get really hung up on the just chords, and they use those a lot. But Bohlen-Pierce contains so many sounds that we just have no idea are there, that are also like non-just. And I kind of hear that in your music a little bit, where even the points of arrival are just so Zen harmonic that even like even like the people who can withstand like the most crazy Zen stuff listen to your music and they're like, whoa, and they just can't even handle it. And it's amazing.
Well, I'm so flattered by that, because, when I make these songs, I don't have anyone here around to give me, impressions about the listening. I think it's great when I sometimes I make some glitch, I make some special, different note in one part or another, and I think, who the hell is gonna notice that?
Right.
But having people out there like you who can talk about that, and maybe someday in the future when we can listen to the tunes together and see, this point here, listen to what I did, when I sometimes I have my pro account in SoundCloud, and I can sometimes figure out who had listened to one or another song, and I listen to it again, thinking about the person who had listened to it, like we were on a concert,
Yeah, it's like putting yourself sort of in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah, it's great. And just to, I think I didn't answer your question about the chromatic, the distance between the notes. Sometimes it's also like a whole tone scale. and that ambiguity. That ambiguity is so great. I like it very much. Think that it's chromatic and that it's whole tone at the same time, and like play with that.
You know, when I listen to your music, I also, you know, I almost don't even know what's going on, and that's so rare. Like, even in music that's supposedly
Really?
experimental. Yeah, like, you'll have, like, Bohlen-Pierce chords. Like, I'm trying to think of, like, Perfume con Açúcar right now, and I'm trying to think of, like, what...
Yeah.
Like, I can imagine it in my head, but it kind of seems... I don't know. I think my brain wants to put more octaves in your music than is really allowed. Obviously, since
Really?
Bohlen-Pierce doesn't have any octaves, I want to cheat in my head and think that there's something going on that's octave based, but there really isn't. How do you feel about eliminating the even sounds, like the even harmonics from the timbres in your music? Do you feel like that's something that you have to do as a Bohlen-Pierce composer? Because you've talked about it a little bit, but I don't know if you lean one way or the other on it.
Well, I think that what you said about like trying to listen and get some octave resonance in the song. I think it's so great for me to hear it, because it's like that effect that I said, like when you take the music out of the speaker, it goes with the whole the octave, the even harmonics, and that's something else. That's the question of the guitar. You know that I made some with the prize that I won in the un12.org. I made a guitar neck and a bass neck in Bohlen-Pierce with Ron Sword.
Yes.
And now I have the guitar here, and that is a guitarist, Climerio, that is playing that, and there is the question of the amplifier, that you have to use to maximize the odd harmonics. You go in the opposite direction of the amp people, the amp creators. They like to use the valve amps that maximize the even harmonics to make the sound more fat and more full. And I go in the opposite direction. I value the even harmonics. That's like the transistor amps.
Yeah.
The amps that give some noise that people think it's thin. They don't like it. And that's so great because it's value the even harmonics that naturally comes from voice and from voice arrangement. And I love voice arrangements. You can tell with the sopranos, and so they naturally use even harmonics. And because the base of the song is made only of odd harmonics, I think it pulls to the front the voice. I think that gives some I don't know, the voice gets more vivid in contrast to the bass. I think the Bohlen-Pierce bass, you can use many chords and many consonants, but it seems a little flat, don't you think?
Almost, yeah. It depends on what happens in the movement. I think if Bohlen-Pierce has a general tendency, I think, of flatness if you hit an unexpected note. Unexpected notes in an ostinato for sure. And some of the leaps are quite weird to digest, I think. I love how much Bohlen-Pierce as a tuning affects so many parameters of the music. How we think about the bass, how we think about register and how we sort of have to demarcate that, how we think about gesture, how we think about balance. Like, Bohlen-Pierce really just revolutionizes the whole process of making music from the bottom up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that contrast with the voices is very, very interesting. I like to work with that. Maybe when I get... I think that more is more. I don't like very much minimalist thing, but when I fill up with instruments and with counterpoint the songs, I even in that when I listen to it, I feel like it's a bass relief.
Yeah,
you know?
like everything is like busy, and so it's very like your music is like almost like hyper stimulating. Not only because it's busy in the first place, but also because the way you're using Bohlen-Pierce is like really, really Zen harmonic and in your face.
I agree. And I only have to thank my fellow, the singers, the girls who take up this challenge, you know, because they are really, there is a soprano that I work with, that's Lila, and she has the absolute pitch. And for her, it's so difficult to sing my songs because in the beginning she was thinking, oh, this is like C, but a little sharper.
Para-raio do que existe de pior na vida corporativa brasileira. Nada pode ser tão enrolado, tão cheio de trambique assim, pois pode e a cada dia fica
I'm making a song called Also See Our Songs. And in this song I talk about all that your hearing can be on colorblind harmony. Also see our songs. And colorblind harmony is like I view harmony. I think I have a low ear for... a not very good ear for harmony, and so I'm colorblind, and maybe that's why I play well with Bohlen-Pierce because of my color blindness. And I'm colorblind also, by the way.
Like, have you ever performed any of these Bohlen-Pierce songs live? Because you have enough people working with you, you know, the singer Lila who's working with you, and I don't know who else, but, you know, you all performing that as a band is a really, really exciting prospect. I don't know if you've ever done that or what your situation is with that, but tell us the story, if you will.
Well, I can say that I've presented one or two of these songs live because I had this friend of mine, the Climerio, he plays the Bohlen-Pierce guitar, and I've played the Bohlen-Pierce bass in a song that I performed last year in a concert hall here in Rio.
Então essa música veio do nosso querido colega Rolando Boldrin, quer dizer, Daniel Faria, e chama-se Tudo que você mais ama nessa vida. Para cantar, estamos aqui conosco Lila Wazan e temos outras pessoas aqui. Então, antes de formar uma opinião, verifique várias vezes se ela é realmente sua, ou seja, se não passa de influência de amigos que o envolveram. Não estará sendo você um inocente útil numa guerra que visa destruir você, sua família e tudo o que você mais ama nessa vida. Tudo o que você mais ama nessa vida.
Antes de formar uma opinião, verifique várias vezes se ela é realmente sua, ou seja, se não passa de influência de amigos que o envolveram. Não estará sendo você
uma opinião.
um inocente
Verifique
útil
várias
numa guerra
vezes se ela é
que visa
realmente
destruir você,
sua,
sua
ou
família,
seja,
e tudo que
se não
você
passa
mais
de
ama
influência
nessa vida. E tudo
de amigos que o envolveram. Não estará sendo você um inocente útil numa guerra que visa destruir você, sua família e tudo que você mais ama nessa vida. Tudo que você mais ama nessa vida. Antes de formar uma opinião, verifique várias vezes se ela é realmente sua, ou seja,
e tudo que
se não
você mais
passa de
ama
influência
nessa vida, e tudo
de amigos
que você
que
mais
o
ama
envolveram. Não
nessa.
estará
Antes de
sendo
formar
você
uma opinião,
inocente útil numa guerra que visa destruir você, sua família e tudo que você mais ama nessa vida. Tudo que você mais ama nessa vida. Antes de formar uma opinião, verifique várias vezes se ela é realmente sua, ou seja, se não passa de influência. Tudo que você mais ama nessa.
But it's very difficult in all the ways you possible to get these songs to the stage. Beginning with the difficulty to really play the lines that I make in the bass guitar, and having people to play that in the guitar or in the keyboards. Because you can say you play the keyboards, it's a whole different setup, and people don't. They are a little lazy, I guess. But who can blame them? They play well the 12-tone thing, and so. And I kind of I've made this when I get to the public, when I get to the crowd and play these songs, it's a great feeling because it's so rare. It's so difficult to do that, and I think in the future I'm making a band, and I'm almost it's almost complete, the lineup. We only need the drummer.
Oh man!
But yeah, it's so nothing to do with Bohlen-Pierce, but
Yay!
It's difficult because the situation here in Rio, it's a little complicated for arts in general. I think I don't know if you've heard about. We have the Brazilian Trump in the presidency of this country.
Oh, Bolsonaro, yeah, he's a fuck.
Yeah, it's so horrible, I think, for people in general, but mainly for the people who work with art, who work with culture. It's so left behind by these situations. We don't have many concert halls that deal with different prospects of music. So, but I have a recording in the SoundCloud. It's Galactose.
Fui num concerto do Ozzy, ele tocou Galactose. É de fato algo assim, mas se me mudam, desconverso. O dinheiro é
this song I like very much because I've managed to make the guitar, the bass, and the keyboard all natural, all no synths. The only synthesized thing is the drums, and so it's like I'm getting the recording the way that the band should be playing live.
So is the keyboard part then, is that a real piano where the strings were retuned?
No. I've said it wrongly. It's a synth, but it was made. The line was made in Bohlen-Pierce with the guy playing what he was hearing in Bohlen-Pierce. It's an impromptu.
Yeah.
But but the bass and the guitar are acoustic. And I'm making 2 albums to release yet this year.
Oh, awesome!
And yeah, I think one of them is mainly synthesized, and the other will have acoustic instruments. And I like it to be wholly acoustic. That's Vasconcelandia. I'll give the name later because it's Portuguese. But and the other one is Mundo de Mãos Midas, which is like a world made of Midas hands. Midas, the king who touched everything and turned it into gold.
Yeah.
And I think that's like a metaphor for the world that we are in. We want to turn everything into money.
Like, talking about live performance again, are you ever scared of audience members not understanding that things are out of tune? Because, like, I feel like with your music, you have the constant sense of, like, upheaval and Xen harmonic lines and gestures filling in the space. With your music, that can be, like, sold as, like, extreme wonkiness. Like, I'm thinking kind of like...
Really?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking, like, with Mr. Bungle and, like, you know how, like, people have never heard augmented chords before. So, like,
yeah.
You know, they heard, like Mr. Bungle, and they were just like, ooh, that's so wonky. And your music is like, this extension of that that's just like so much more Xen harmonic. Kind of like a Xen harmonic version of that, I don't know, in my mind. So maybe you can sort of, I don't know, I feel like you could use that to sort of get across to an audience whereas an audience that hears Bohlen-Pierce chords in tune, but horizontal relationships that they have never experienced before, they might not respond to that as well. I don't really know. It's kind of hard to diagnose like the average ear and how they're going to react to all this stuff, which is one of the like 500 reasons we need like way more of it in the world.
Yeah, you're right. But I have had this feeling all my life. In all the songs that I made, even before I was making Xen harmonics tunes, people scratched their heads and thought, what is this? What's going on?
It's pure Lancaster, baby.
Yeah, I know. There is even a shirt that I have that it's a Lancaster thing. You don't have to understand.
Really? Is this shirt for sale?
Yeah, but they say Lancaster about I don't know the place or a city called Lancaster. But I I took that to myself. To my motto.
Yes,
you know?
I loved it. You've hijacked Lancaster. Now you have this thing going on. It's great.
Yeah, but I know, I've always wanted people to make, I think it's the opposite. You were talking about how audience would react. I think it's the opposite for me. I've always wanted to be in the audience to people who'd play the songs like the songs that I made. That's so rare and so difficult. People don't do, you can say that here in Brazil, people don't do this kind of music, and I'm freaked out by that. I'd like to hear more.
Yeah.
So I'd like to, just to give you, I don't know, maybe it will be good to give a tracking of how I've got to this.
Absolutely, yeah.
I made my the first band that I loved was The Cure. I was 13 years old, and so I listened to that band. I liked the attitude of them, but it was not that weird. And so I listened to a song that is in the Head on the Door album called 6 Different Ways. And this song has a kind of drum pattern. There is in 6/4, I think. And this revolved my head. I thought, this is groovy, but it's strange also. I don't know how I could dance to that. And so I started to look for other bands, and I listened to Rush. And so I went to the album. And I had to say also that today I'm a little sad because Neil Peart passed away.
Passed away, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that's too bad.
You heard that?
Yeah, did he die at age 67? I think he was only 67, yeah.
I've got so sad because of that, because I really love Rush. And I think in some moments, Rush transcended, They were not only some power trio band. I think that the song that I liked the most and turned also my head around was Jacob's Ladder. Jacob's Ladder has that pattern. It's like a little bit like Kashmir from Led Zeppelin, but it's different. It's dum 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 dum. That pattern and the way they evolved from that, like it was so easy and so natural. And so I started to look for more songs that gave to me that feeling. And then I went to Gentle Giant. And when I listened to Gentle Giant, man, that song, when I listen in the radio, in my way did I use you, do you think I really abuse you, but in fact don't know, I've got crazy. 4 voices and singing things completely different.
Still you stay tied in your sleigh, changing times, watching signs. How could you see in me all you want me to be? Now, only Change my ways, we all around, 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 all around. And I have sympathies with you, but I never lie to you. All in all, it seems.
And this is what I try to this kind of impression I try to make in the song, the Christmas song that I made. The
Yeah, the 16 EDO one.
yeah.
Minha bola de Natal, 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 és a única testemunha do fim do turno do Papai Noel, quando bebe o uísque se acabrunha. Minha bola de Natal, és a única testemunha do fim do testemunha do velho que se acabrunha. Minha bola espelhada, semblantes que se veem balões, bananas lembrando melões, visões da vaidade fracassada. Essa única testemunha, essa minha bola de Natal, essa única testemunha. Quando bebe o uísque se acabrunha, quando bebe o uísque se acabrunha. Minha bola espelhada, semblantes que se veem balões, bananas lembrando melões, visões da vaidade fracassada. Oh, minha bola de Natal, és a única testemunha, és a única testemunha do velho que se acabrunha. Minha bola espelhada, semblantes que se veem balões, bananas lembrando melões, visões da vaidade fracassada.
For 20 long years, I had a secret. I could not read music, but now, thanks to Hooked on Funk, I'm a free man. And then that started that crazy riff, and
Yes. That's neat.
so great. I like that emotion of not really knowing what you're listening to, even though you perceive there is a pattern there, but you can't put your finger on it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that shows up in your music so much that it makes sense that all these like great artists would have sort of inspired you to do that. I think like Rush's YYZ, I still don't know the pattern right now, but like that thing that's kind of like in 4/4 and it's Morse code. Like I don't even I don't actually know how it goes to this day. It's just it is really natural how they make that sound. I think almost sort of the secret to making mixed meters sound natural is palindromic rhythm. Because, like, I know in Tom Sawyer, that rhythm is the same backwards and forwards. And so, like, when I was going through my phase of, like, writing things in mixed meter, I would try that, and I kind of like, it was like my little secret a little bit.
Yeah, you feel like you are inside some club, inside some group of special people, you know. There is a band here in Brazil you probably haven't heard about. It's Patife Band. This band has a song called Polish Corridor. Patife bands, Patife like scoundrel, in Portuguese. Patife band. The drummer was the leader of the band, and they have a song that has a pattern in 11, an 11th pattern that is like. And in the shows, in the gigs of this band, people sing along with that. It's a crazy pattern, but with everyone singing along, you get scared, because if you are not into that, you think these people are crazy. They all know the same strange thing. And that's also the band. That is another band called Fantomas. The McPatton band with Terry Bozzio in the drums. There is also a song that I'd like people to hear. That's Louco, Ela Era Seu Mundo, in Bohlen-Pierce.
De 20 patas, uma atmosfera verde e prata, um computador deprê a bordo na nave mãe. Seu mundo onde a raça inteligente parece uma espécie de serpente, contendo 3 sexos diferentes. Eu sempre te disse pra não reclamar de amor. Um dia aquele mundo lhe deu um abraço de afogado e nunca mais largou. Louco, ela era seu mundo. Para ela ele não valia nada. Mas para ele, ela era seu mundo onde a acústica é uma sandice. Você desenvolve ouvido tríplice. A música popular é toda em Bohlen-Pierce. Seu mundo em que a principal religião diz que o além-túmulo é ficar revivendo o momento de sua morte eternamente. Seu mundo com nuvens que materializam desejos, pensamentos. Uma delas transformou-se até num vagabundo. Para ela, ele não valia nada. Mas para ele, ela era seu mundo. Marcelo me disse que a NASA tem parte nisto. Um dia ele se viu redondando o planeta nada. E nunca mais foi visto.
It's a version of a song, a popular song in the past here in Brazil, but transposed to Bohlen-Pierce. And the lyrics I made other lyrics also, like because the song originally said that a guy became crazy because of a woman, and so this woman was his world.
Yeah.
And I made it like it was a Bohlen-Pierce world, a strange world with strange animals,
Yes.
with strange atmosphere and acoustics, with Bohlen-Pierce acoustics, a world in which you could only hear the odd harmonics, you know?
Yeah. Or a world in which that would be like kind of a natural thing. Yeah.
And I think that goes along with that thing of Elaine Walker that's about spaceship music, and so I think that goes along with that imaginary. You think about another world, and in this album that I'm going to release, I have a song about a book.
Tudo isso vai saindo doce e ciência desse meio. Tudo isso vai saindo doce e ciência desse meio. Tudo isso vai saindo doce e ciência desse meio.
By Isaac Asimov, a book called The Gods Themselves. Are you into sci-fi literature and so?
I'm not, but I know about Asimov. Doesn't he have those rules about robots in one of his stories?
Yeah. But in this is I like the works that go beyond the curve, you know.
Yeah.
There is the style of Asimov. Asimov talked about robots, talked about the future and how to predict the future. But that book is different because people said, well, there is not aliens in your book and there is not sex in your books. And so he was determined to make a book with aliens and with sex, and with sex with aliens.
I was about to say, you gotta have that sex with aliens thing happening.
Yeah, and this guy, he made the book, a great book. The Gods Themselves. I think it's a great reading because there is this other universe in which there are two kinds of intelligent species, and one of these has only one sex, and one of the species has three sexes. And they go along in a way, in a dynamics that's so awesome. And I tried to make a song inspired by that. I think it's great, an exercise of imagination, a little alike Bohlen-Pierce writing. I can think.
Do you make your own artwork?
Yeah. I'm also an illustrator. And I sometimes like to try to paint oil paintings, and I work with computer illustration also. But I don't like it that much. I think I have much more new things to say in music than in visual arts. Mm-hmm. I think.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There is a song called how can I say? The outlet for the composing of new religions.
Sempre é preciso que algo se ergue em torno pra criar em puro enfado uma mostra permanente.
That has some harmonic Bohlen-Pierce shifts in the end that I think that people would like to hear. There are some chords, but with the different notes on the bass, I try to make some different progressions, and maybe it would be great for people to listen. And it's a homage to Echo and the Bunnymen, which is another band that I like. And so I tried to make a Bohlen-Pierce song that looks like Echo and the Bunnymen songs. I think that's worth listening.
I love the element of collage you have in your music, where you you sort of like parody and like use influences from other music, and like you use quotation in your work, and I think more microtonalists should do that, because it kind of like almost builds up a sense of community, or that we're listening to other people's music and we're taking that into account, because it can be easy for microtonalists to become isolated and become very self-absorbed, but yeah, you don't do that.
Oh yeah, I know that. Yeah, I'm very lonely, in my, and I like companion. I like companion a lot. So I try to make these people, sometimes even against their will. Sometimes I take some recording of an audio that people send me in WhatsApp and make some song over it.
Yeah.
I don't play marchinhas anymore. Play marchinhas anymore.
That's because I like to work with many people. I like to bring these people to our world, to our different world.
Yeah, and microtonal cover songs, I think, are also a good way to do that. I don't know if you've ever heard of Vampire Weekend. Have you ever heard them?
I've heard this name, but I haven't listened to the band.
They have this song called Sunflower that is like, it's like a little song in like the Mixolydian mode in E flat, and it has Jerry Seinfeld in the music video.
Oh, really?
Which is really shocking. Yeah, and the song is so very like non-harmonic and riff-based that I was like, oh, I'm going to try this in 7-tone equal temperament. So I have a cover of it in 7-tone equal temperament, and I posted it acting like Vampire Weekend had done it, like I used their hashtag and stuff. They didn't get mad at me, unfortunately.
Sunflower in the morning, standing in the garden, all before you wake. No power can compel you out into the daylight. Let that evil wait.
There's one chromatic note in it. It's Mixolydian, but it also at one point uses the flat 3, I think. So really 8 notes are used in the song, but I only draw from 7. So then those 2 notes become, like, they sort of share a function in the song, and you can hear that stretch.
Yeah, I like the 7-note, the 7-Edo scale. I made a cover of a song from a friend of mine, also in 7.
Às vezes me sinto como uma aranha içado bem alto num fio espaço. Tudo em volta é escuro e dá medo. O fio parece mais fino que é. Às vezes eu tento chegar lá no alto, mas fica bem longe, não sei onde é. O fio aos poucos vai se dissolvendo e eu sigo caindo até chegar no mar. Um homem ao mar, um homem ao mar. Sozinho, perdido e caindo no mar. Eu sou um homem ao mar, um homem ao mar. E nunca aparece ninguém pra me resgatar.
Just because it blends the different notes you talked about. Yeah, and I'm remembering now, I've made some Bohlen-Pierce cover of a David Bowie song called Songs of the Silent Age.
Is that on your SoundCloud?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
With Clara Salim, the other girl that sings, called Clara Salim, is the main singer of this album that I'm going to release this year. But and this song from Bowie, I think it's so great because it has that Eno style of synths, and so this is a little strange age. I don't know, maybe the lyrics and the Bohlen-Pierce thing, I think it blends really well.
Some virtue, then make war. Search through your wannish thoughts, then decide it could be. Baby, I'll never let you go. All I see is all I know. Let's find another way. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Baby, I'll never let you down. I can stand another sound. Let's take another way. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Sons of the silent age, sent to Travis, Serbian kingdom. Sons of the silent age, kept in bars and bars. Sons of the silent age, make love only once, but dream and dream. They don't walk pages blinded and out of life. They never die, just go to sleep one day. Baby, I'll never let you go. All I feel is all I know. Let's find another way. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Baby, I'll never let you down. I can stand another sound. Let's take another way. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Sounds of sound and sounds of sound. Baby, find another
You know, another song that you made that just really drew me in immediately, but was so short, was Agora No in 53 EDO.
Vocês pensam que eu vou desistir? Agora não. Todo o trabalho que eu tive, agora não. Nem vem que eu não vou desistir. Agora não. Agora não. Eu antes sabia das coisas, agora não. Estão me fazendo de trouxa, de bufão. Agora eu sou osso de todos. Agora não, agora não. Minha vida não vale um centavo. Agora não. Minha vida não vale um centavo. Nem um tostão. Minha vida não vale um centavo. Agora não. Agora nem isso. Preciso falar com você. Agora não. Vem cá pra esse lado da rua. Agora não. Vai me visitar no ZUA. Agora não. Agora não. Agora não.
With the little drawing of the monster, because I was like, oh, that's so... Like, I thought that was a really fantastic illustration. Like, it was kind of a little bit, like, scary, but also, like, a little bit, I don't know, like the colors almost suggest like sunset or like lightness or something. So yeah, it reminded me of like an old tale.
This song has every song of mine I can talk hours about what they mean. This song is a little sad because it's about that friend of mine that I borrowed the melody of Perfume com Açúcar. And he's a little involved with how can I say, he's not well. He sometimes gets some psychotic, I don't know how I can talk that. And sometimes he asks for money. Enfim, and we have to say agora não to him, which is the words that we say to some beggar on the street who asks for money. And that was a pain to me, so much to have to say this thing to him. Agora não, not now. He says, can you give me some spare change for... And we said, not now, not now.
Right.
This is why I made the song. But, and that's the illustration that you talked about is from a children's book.
Yeah.
That's agora não. The guy, the monster, he eats the children, the child, and the people that because the parents of the boy don't listen to him, and the boy says, "There's a monster in my room," and the people say, "Oh, not now, not now." And then the monster eats the little boy, and the parents take the monster to the school, thinking he is the boy, because they don't pay any attention to the boy, you know.
That's such a funny tale. It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf over here, I guess, maybe a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like that. But always saying that the parents don't have time for the boy, even when the boy is eaten by a monster.
Right? Yeah.
And
it's amusing.
And so the Agora Não it is a part of the concept album of Vasconcelandia, which is just talk a little about that. Vasconcelandia is the place that a comedian in Brazil called José Vasconcelos, this guy tried to make in Brazil a Disneyland. And he failed. And the Disneyland of him would be called Vasconcelandia. And so I tried to make a parallel with that, with things that people think that will go well in Brazil because they go well somewhere else, mainly in the United States. And they can't reproduce the same thing in Brazil.
Right.
I mean, the meritocracy and the way of thinking and that kind of entrepreneur, I don't know. But they can't make it here. And I try to talk about that. And Agora Não is part of that. It's like you can say, you could do this, but not now.
I see. Yeah. That weaves together so many different fascinating threads. And when I hear that song, it's hard to say how the Xen harmonic thirds really like inform my feeling of that, because you know how like, well, major and minor are supposed to be like, you know, the bland way to teach it is that they're happy and sad, and like there's like a kernel of truth in that it sort of like reveals a greater truth about the harmony, but of course, you know, things aren't so binary, and so then putting Agora Não in that paradigm is really bizarre. Because like it ends with that dominant seventh chord in the pattern, but then the beginning part of it has these like, I don't know if they're neutral thirds or if they're really sharp minor thirds, but they're not.
Oh, and let me tell you something I forgot to say.
Yeah.
The theme is the same theme that we have in Perfume com Açúcar.
Really? In Agora Não?
This theme is in Bohlen-Pierce in Perfume com Açúcar, and it's the theme of the little fugue that you have in Agora Não. Perfume.
Oh my god! I can't believe that's the same. My mind has been blown. So apparently
it's the same thing, but Yeah.
So apparently I just love this little melody, whatever it is.
Yeah. And it's a different gesture, you know, a gesture of the melody in Bohlen-Pierce and another one in Agora Não.
Yeah. Melodies between tunings are so interesting. You're going to have to send me a link to that song, I think.
Yeah, you know, it's like, for me, it's like working with tuplets and rhythm.
Yeah.
But in a way that you can't know which is the beat. You know, when you have, for instance, I have a melody that's with tuplets in every compass, in every beat. Like with 5, 6, 3, and 4, and you don't know which is the correct division of the beats.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah,
and you can say that with this little tune. Is it mainly in Bohlen-Pierce originally? Is it originally in an octave-based tuning? I don't know. It doesn't have a standard form from which you are variation in different tunings.
Yeah. Neat. Well, thanks so much for being on the show. I don't know how much longer my battery can last, so...
Never mind. It's been great talking to you. Thank you.
You were great, and we definitely want to have you back. We keep saying we're going to have people back, but there's always new people, so I wonder when the show is going to cycle around to a point where we're going to have kind of the same people back. Maybe having Elaine back for the bonus content counts. Well, this has been Löis Lancaster, everyone. Don't forget to listen to his new album when it comes out. New secret album that's very exciting. And hopefully his live band when that happens as well.
Yeah, we hope so.
Doggy dog. See you later then.
Bye-bye.
If you want to help us out, please leave our podcast a review on iTunes and spread the word. We release new episodes every month on the 12th. Get yourself subscribed so you won't miss any episodes. Now and Xen is available on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, YouTube, or you can find our RSS feed at nowandxen.libsyn.com. Thanks once again to Löis for joining us, and thanks to everybody listening. We're here to spread the love of microtones and new music, and you're part of the team. We now have a Patreon here at Now and Xen. So Patreon is a site where you can make a small monthly donation in order to keep our show running. I haven't had as much time to work on this because of working other jobs. Your generous donations will go towards helping pay our editors, paying the fees to host more episodes online, bringing in special guests, and allowing time for better quality of content. We also have additional conversations and bonus content for our top patrons only, though we want to continue to make the majority of our show free and accessible to everybody. So in our next episode, our bonus content will be Löis, Elaine, and myself all playing Bohlen-Pierce instruments and talking about what we're playing. So be sure to become a patron in order to hear that awesome stuff. Thank you for all you do as listeners and supporters of the show. This episode wouldn't be possible without the generosity of our patrons. Our Xen Harmonic patrons, and our top-tier patrons, the Xen Harmonic gods, Amy Coleman, Leland Weigel, the Brass Whisperer, and Tina Carteau. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Now and Xen.